Conservation districts were organized in response to devastating soil erosion conditions of the Dust Bowl and to bridge the gap between federal technicians and private landowners. The first New Hampshire statewide soil conservation district was created in May 1945, while the remaining 9 were created in 1946. That means that this year, 2021, all 10 New Hampshire conservation districts are celebrating their collective 75th anniversary. For 75 years, the county conservation districts have worked tirelessly with landowners and communities to promote the conservation and responsible use of natural and agricultural resources all across the Granite State. In honor of the 75th anniversary of New Hampshire conservation districts, 10 recipients, 1 in each county, have been selected to receive the Conservation Legacy Award. This award seeks to honor sustained commitment to the stewardship of natural resources across the state and shine a spotlight on individuals, organizations, and businesses that deserve recognition and thanks for sharing in our mission to promote conservation over the years. Join us now as we highlight each Conservation Legacy Award winner, starting at the top of the state in Coos County and working our way down to the bottom. The Coos County Conservation District is pleased to announce David and Andrea Craxton as the recipients of their Conservation Legacy Award. The couple moved to Dalton in 1980 during the Grow Your Own Food movement, and over their 42 years have created 2 acres of beautiful gardens called Roots and Fruits Farm. Andrea grew up in Lisbon, New Hampshire, and was a photographer and first grade teacher for over 30 years. While David grew up in Clearland Heights, Ohio. He majored in chemistry during college and focused on soil microbiology, soil building, and composting. Although gardening was a second passion at the time, David was a carpenter and retired in the 1990s. Gardening then became his retirement plan and primary focus, along with running their community-supported agriculture program, Lost Nation Cider Mill, and the Lancaster Farmers Market. The Craxtons' community-supported agriculture program served 25 families for 8 years. It was a great start for the community. However, once the farmers market got bigger over the years, their primary focus was shifted to growing the Lancaster Farmers Market. The Craxtons also took on being partners in the Lost Nation Cider Mill operation during this time and operated for 5 years in the mid-90s. They bought apples from the Certified Organic Orchard and planted many heirloom varieties, but did not have much harvest from them due to the operation stopping before most bore any fruit. They did produce a fair amount of cider and retailed most of it at the mill. Orchard tours were also offered to school classes, and the pressing of cider was a great draw. The Craxtons have also been supportive of the Root Cellar in Lancaster and Taproot for the New Hampshire Gleans program, where they would ship bunches of carrots and other veggies to local food pantries. David and Andrea, along with partner Bill, founded the Lancaster Farmers Market in 1997. When they started this venture, they had 6 different vendors. Now there are over 25 vendors that come to share their goods with the community. The Craxtons used to sell all their fresh fruits and veggies at the market too. Now David just sells his 35 different varieties of garlic, which he is famously known for in the area. In addition to all these endeavors, the Craxtons are also great partners to UNH Cooperative Extension and the Coos County Conservation District by hosting workshops, working on practice trials, and providing demonstrations of things like the district's tool rental program. Conservation has been a huge part of their lives at Roots and Fruits Farm for many decades. It seems that their goals have all been accomplished. However, when asked what role does conservation currently play in your lives, David responded by saying that he's excited to be more involved with the public. He encourages others to grow their own food and was happy to state how he currently mentors a local farmer who has a high tunnel and now brings fresh vegetables to the Lancaster Farmers Market. David is open to public visits at his farm in the future and is delighted to visit other gardens and provide feedback based on his 42 years of experience and college background. David started growing seed garlic back in the early 80s, and he could not give it away. People simply were not interested in garlic. But now, in 2020-2021, he sells at the farmer's market fast. At one point, he was growing 6,000 bulbs of garlic to sell at the market. Dave Craxton is an enthusiastic grower and forest landowner. He implements excellent practices based on science and professional advice. Dave is a local authority for many aspects of thoughtful farming and season extension techniques, and he's found and enhanced a market niche with his garlic production. His products are in high demand at farmers markets. When David and Andrea are not seen in their gardens or at the Lancaster Farmers Market, they can be found enjoying local businesses such as the Polish Princess, the Root Cellar, the Copper Pig, and the local church. Currently, Andrea and David are homesteaders, supplying just what they need to survive for the year and only selling Dave's famous 35 varieties of garlic at the Lancaster Farmers Market. They are a remarkable couple that have come so far in the past 42 years. Their impact on Coos County with the fresh veggies and fruits they have supplied, the programs they have started, the involvement in multiple organizations, and their offering of community support in gardening and encouraging others to grow their own food is spectacular, and we proudly thank them with this award.
Ann and Dick Fabrizio purchased their farm in North Haverhill to raise their family in 1967. Its name, Windy Ridge Orchard. Dick was hired as the 4-H agent for the UNH Cooperative Extension, and Ann was a school teacher at the time. The Fabrizio family raised sheep, chickens, and turkeys, along with 2 cows. Ann and Dick began working on their dream to establish an apple orchard, raise livestock, and provide recreational opportunities for families. The first apple trees were planted in 1968. A second block of apple trees were planted in 1971, and a third block added in 1980. Apples were sold from a tent set up on the front lawn, and a cider room was constructed in the garage. Their carport even held all the bushels of apple boxes. They have come a long way. In total, Windy Ridge Orchard has now 20 acres of apple trees. That's 3,000 trees. A cold storage building and gift shop were added later in 1983. Guests began to spend more and more time visiting the farm, and apple and cider sales were only to local area markets. Windy Ridge Orchard began selling choose-your-own and cut Christmas trees in the 1990s. Hot cider and cocoa kept families coming back every year. And now they have 10 acres of Christmas trees, too. Sheila Fabrizio, Anna and Dick's daughter, left home to serve in the Peace Corps. Upon her return as an agricultural consultant in Senegal, she opened the Cider House Cafe, serving locally grown farm fresh fare and homemade cider donuts. Sheila also planted 2 acres of blueberries and used practices like exclusion netting. Along with the cafe, she manages the Pick Your Own Blueberry Patch and uses fresh fruits in the cafe menu, along with their own garden veggies. Ann and Dick and Sheila have always gone the extra step to provide top-quality fruit and great farm visits for family, while managing their natural resources. Ann and Dick became district cooperators in 1967 and began working with the Soil Conservation Service, which is now Natural Resources Conservation Service, implementing their own conservation plan, which was installing a pond, improving drainage to expand the apple orchard, enhancing pollinator habitat, pest control practices, including exclusion fencing to reduce bear and deer damage, and exclusion nettings for the blueberries. After retirement, Ann and Dick continue to educate students, families, and peers with farm tours, meetings, and workshops. An outdoor classroom space was also added, and the Fabrizios hosted 2 groups a day so students could learn about how apples were grown and where their food comes from. Ann and Dick are New Hampshire Farm Bureau members and both serve on Town of Haverhill committees. Ann and Dick volunteer as 4-H judges at the North Haverhill Fair, and Dick is also a volunteer at the Rich Kinder Lumberjack Contest. Dick has been on the Grafton County Conservation District Board since 1995. The Windy Ridge Orchard Barn has also been home to the GCCD Conservation Plant Cell since the very first year. Dick, Ann, and Sheila lend a hand when needed and patiently wait for all the plant orders to be picked up so they can get right back to managing the apples and blueberries. The money raised from the sale supports district programs and educational activities. Congratulations, Dick, Ann, and Sheila.
The Carroll County Conservation District is proud to present their Conservation Legacy Award to an individual who has demonstrated a sustained commitment to the stewardship of natural resources in Carroll County through her work as an activist, artist, and outdoors woman in Effingham, New Hampshire. Blair Fultz is all this and more. She's best known as the founder and former executive director of Green Mountain Conservation Group, a community-based charitable organization dedicated to the protection and conservation of natural resources in the Ossipee watershed in central Carroll County. From 1997 to 2020, Blair led Green Mountain Conservation Group through its transformation from a small group of concerned citizens sitting around Blair's farmhouse kitchen table to a formidable force for conservation research, education, activism, and land protection, complete with a board of directors, donors, town representatives, staff, volunteers, and a service area that includes more than 10,000 residents in Carroll County. Those who nominated Blair for this award noted that Blair is very quick to give credit to the others who were involved in the formation of this organization, but it is Blair who has been the spark plug and the glue that has been instrumental in the success of Green Mountain Conservation Group. From Blair's memory, she's been an activist since childhood, and it is perhaps an unrelated series of events that gave her the tools needed to build Green Mountain Conservation Group into what it is today. During her first year at the University of Maine, Blair was assigned to the forestry dormitory. Studying art and English, Blair remembers looking at her roommate's hatchet hanging on the wall and wondering, is this really the place for me? Despite her initial trepidation, Blair now credits her connections with the School of Forestry for much of her success as an activist. Existing in this liminal space between the humanities and sciences, Blair continued to expand her practice in reaching across disciplinary and political divides. Natural resources don't know political boundaries, she said, explaining the necessity of collaborating across the aisle. This is also in line with Blair's belief in community-driven change and is one of the reasons that Green Mountain Conservation Group incorporates representatives from each town within its service area into its leadership team. Following this philosophy of nonpartisanship, transparency, and focus on the footprint of the Ossipee watershed as opposed to human-imposed town borders, Blair was able to truly make conservation, not politics, the focal point of her activism. As for her art, Blair has studied art and English at the University of Kent in Canterbury, England, and earned a diploma from the School of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston in 1985. Her work attempts to convey the peacefulness and strength found in nature through painting, printmaking, installation, photography, performance, and writing. An avid rock and ice climber, Blair translated her intimate relationship with nature into experiential pieces with subjects such as the inside of a snowstorm or the top of an ice floe. Even within her art, Blair seeks to be educational, powerful, and purposeful. Currently, Blair is working primarily with lithography. It's layered like conservation. The prints inform each other, she says. One of her projects features photos of land in present day, original deeds, and pictures of people who initially lived there. It shows the process of conservation or degradation. Blair's work has been showcased in dozens of exhibitions, publications, and collections, and her landscape paintings are showcased alongside renowned artists such as Thomas Cole, Winslow Homer, and Asher Durand in Gods in Granite, The Art of the White Mountains of New Hampshire by Robert McGrath, a well-respected former professor of art history at Dartmouth College. Notwithstanding her numerous and impressive aforementioned achievements, perhaps one of Blair's most admirable traits is her tireless belief in humanity's ability to come together and make positive change. As mentioned by her nominators, the word no is just not in her vocabulary. Blair recalled a visit from the Appalachian Mountain Club several decades ago where they came to discuss acid rain. It was one of the foremost environmental issues of the day. It's been solved, Blair said, and climate change could be solved too. Congratulations on this deserving award, Blair. You are an inspiration.
Picnic Rock Farm is located at 85 Daniel Webster Highway in Meredith, New Hampshire, between two vacation destinations, Ware Beach in Laconia and the town of Meredith on the shores of Lake Winnipesaukee. Ward Bird and family are seventh generation of the Hodgson extended family to farm this land, which has been in the family since 1801. Ward's great-uncle, Markle Hodgson, owned and managed the farm from the early 1900s to his death in 1985. He was a known innovator and believed in better agriculture through meticulous management and technology. Marshall was instrumental in the establishment of the Conservation District in Belknap County. He served as Conservation District Chairman for many years. Marshall was succeeded by his son John, who served as chairman for 32 years. John, Marshall's son, grew up on the farm and had many responsibilities. However, he also showed promise as an excellent student, especially in mathematics. His education took him all over the world, eventually earning a PhD in biochemistry from the University of California, Berkeley. He returned to the farm in the late 1970s, running operations until 2005, growing vegetables, small fruit, Christmas trees, and overseeing the farm stand and on-site bakery. All during this time, John dedicated himself to conservation efforts nationally, statewide, and locally. He served as a volunteer on multiple boards, committees, and commissions. His work earned him awards and recognition from organizations such as the National Association of Conservation Districts, the New Hampshire Farm Bureau, and the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Districts, just to name a few. Long Ridge Farm underwent a name change to Picnic Rock Farm under the ownership and management of John. The 125-acre Picnic Rock Farm consists of 75 acres of woodlot and 50 acres of active agricultural growing vegetables and raising pigs. 120 acres is under an agricultural conservation easement. In 2008, John's nephew, Ward Bird, took over operation of the farm to be the seventh generation to continue the tradition. John passed away at home on his beloved farm in November in 2020. Picnic Rock Farm has a long history of innovation and conservation, and that legacy will be preserved through a conservation easement on 120 acres. Through the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service administered Farm Bill program, the farm currently implements forest management, conservation tillage, water management, and erosion control. Through water conservation and controlled irrigation, seasonal high tunnels, rotational planning, a farm-wide conservation plan, and a forest management plan. Picnic Rock Farm is a local gathering place for the community to purchase locally grown produce and baked goods made on site, for local vendors to sell their wares and artwork, and for the Conservation District to hold fundraisers to collect food donations for NH Gleams, and for local school children to meet and learn from a local farmer. Congratulations to the Hodgson family, a true gem of Belknap County.
Robin Aikman of Rollinsford, New Hampshire, was nominated and ultimately selected for the Stratford County Conservation Legacy Award because of her dedication and commitment to land protection, agricultural conservation, and the Conservation District. She has been a district supervisor for over 30 years and a leader in conservation in her community for many decades. Stratford County is home to extensive forest land, lakes, rivers, and estuaries. Of great local importance for recreation, ecosystem services, and our economy are the Piscataqua Tidal River, Great Bay, and their tributaries. One of these tributaries is the Salmon Falls River, which creates the border between New Hampshire and Maine in Stratford County. The river has been the focus of many water quality and protection projects. Across the county, many of the large farms have gone away over the past few decades to be replaced by housing developments, forest land, and smaller farms and homesteads. Rollinsford is still home to several hundred acres of open, protected farmland, in large part due to Robin's work with land trusts and her outreach to other landowners in the community. Robin's father started a dairy farm in Rollinsford along the Salmon Falls River, which she took over and cared for many years as a diversified dairy and beef farm. She quickly became very interested in managing the farm in a responsible manner that would protect water quality, help wildlife, and provide for healthy and happy livestock. Robin credits her success in practicing conservation on her farm to the help she received from several organizations and individuals. Robin began working with the Soil Conservation Service, now the Natural Resources Conservation Service, to implement conservation on her farm from the beginning, and continues the partnership to this day. Projects she has completed with the NRCS include runoff management for water quality, creating in-stream habitat for fish, and creating shrubland habitat for New England cottontails. Working with livestock brings Robin enjoyment, and she has always sought to provide a healthy environment for her herd. Taking care of the animals brought her joy in farming more than driving a tractor around. She enjoyed having students visit her farm from the University of New Hampshire to learn about caring for livestock. She is a proponent of protecting heritage breeds. In the 1960s, Robin began reading about organic farming, and the idea of avoiding pesticides resonated with her. While the farm never became certified organic, she followed organic principles. Later, in the 1980s, Robin became interested in intensive grazing after reading about the benefits in Stockman Grass Farmer and had all the necessary fencing and watering equipment installed. The farm continues to be one of very few offering dairy products from rotationally grazed cows. With help and inspiration from Ashton Hallett of the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests, Robin became actively involved in permanent land protection. In 2008, the Ashton Hallett Award for Conservation was created in his honor, and she would be the first ever recipient of the award. She is grateful to have had the opportunity to put over 200 acres of her land along the Salmon Falls River into conservation easements, thus protecting a scenic and ecologically important area from development. She has been a community leader in conservation in many ways, and convinced several landowners nearby to put their land into easements as well. Around the same time, Robin joined the Stratford County Conservation District as a supervisor, and continues to serve today over 30 years later. She has been instrumental in guiding the district and bringing her values to its programs and projects. She helped create the Stratford Rivers Conservancy, a land trust that would focus its efforts on easements. The Stratford Rivers Conservancy was very successful in protecting numerous properties and has since merged with the Southeast Land Trust of New Hampshire. Today, Robin's farm is leased by Phil and Becky Brand of Brandmore Farm, who continue the tradition of responsible farming and stewardship, and the farm is a local role model for incorporating intensive rotational grazing, organic practices, and wildlife habitat into its management. Robin's advice for farmers is to be flexible. Her farm has produced many different products for different markets over time. A horse barn has been used for chickens, sheep, hogs, and other uses over the years. In the future, the property will be passed on to Robin's children and will be conserved for agriculture and ecosystem services in perpetuity thanks to Robin's commitment to land protection.
Sullivan County Conservation District has chosen John and Robin Luther of Parnassus Farm in Ackworth, New Hampshire as our Legacy Award winners. John and Robin implement best practices for conservation on Parnassus Farm, a dairy farm in Ackworth, through their partnership with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, or NRCS, and through John's role as a supervisor for the Conservation District for the past 24 years. John's love of farming and cows started when he was a small boy on the family farm. John's father, Earl Luther Jr., was one of the first cooperators to sign with the district. The annual report from 1984 states that over the years, Mr. Luther has made consistent effort to apply as many conservation practices as possible on his 192-acre farm and continues these efforts in partnership with his son, John. Earl was named the 1984 Cooperator of the Year. John's partnership with NRCS is still strong, valued, and ongoing. The Luthers were there for the slow pivot from old-school conservation to the contemporary vision advocated for today. Why does John think conservation is important? He does it for the well-being of his cows and his family, including his daughter Karen, who works part-time at the farm. He believes that caring for the animals and caring for the land go hand in hand. Conservation practices are better for the cows. Cows benefit from clean water too. John was encouraged to switch to pasturing his cows by Heidi Konesko of NRCS. He has found that people like to see the cows grazing by the road. John enjoys seeing the cows out on pasture, knowing they are comfortable and doing what they should be doing, grazing. To John, a farm is a place you can proudly say, "This is where my food comes from." The Luthers have a milk house waste system that was the first of its kind in New England. The one they had previously wasn't as efficient as John would like, and he knew there must be something better. He wanted to make sure that the milk waste from his barns, the proverbial spilled milk, was not seeping into the local watershed. John worked with NRCS staff to find a better system, and they found one that was being used in Pennsylvania that seemed promising. They constructed a grass filter strip designed by the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service with 2 settling tanks and a pump that evenly discharges the liquid into a manifold, which is painted green and blends into the shrubbery. The waste now seeps inconspicuously into the sod along the edge of the farmstead. John initiated the search for something better and implemented it. This milk house waste system is still working after 20 years. Educating others is important to the Luthers. John's wife Robin was a youth and family 4-H field specialist in the UNH Cooperative Extension Sullivan County office, teaching the next generation about caring for plants, animals, and the natural resources that sustain us all. She retired this June after 36 years of service. The Luthers have frequent visitors to the farm, whether it's friends, neighbors, or school groups. They are always willing to stop what they are doing and show folks where their food comes from and how it gets from the farm to their table. The way they manage the farm sets a great example for conservation, and that's visible to people in other walks of life. John and Robin want people, especially young people, to know that they aren't the last generation. Someone is coming after them. The natural world needs care. Love your cows, love your land, love the water. It sustains us.
The Monadnock Conservancy is a nonprofit land trust based in Keene, New Hampshire that got started in 1989. Their mission is to work with communities and landowners to conserve the natural resources, wild and working lands, rural character, and scenic beauty of the Monadnock region. They serve 39 towns, including all of Cheshire County, western Hillsborough County, and southern Sullivan County. They have conserved 240 properties for a total of 21,500 acres in a little over 30 years. These achievements have been rooted in a locally driven process focused on being responsive to the community's needs. They create their conservation priorities based on what people value, love, and want to preserve in the Monadnock region. This award is as much for the Conservancy as it is for all the individuals and the families who have partnered with them to forever protect the land they love. The land the Conservancy works to conserve will remain in an undeveloped state and serve our community's health and well-being. The working lands serve the region with enhanced food access and food security, as well as enable strong farm and forest economies. The wild lands serve the community with recreation opportunities, connections to nature, wildlife refuge, and the protection of our water quality. The 10-person staff at the Conservancy strive to strike a balance in their focus of both wild and working lands, as they know how important both elements are to the heritage of our region. Beyond the staff, their organization is supported by a strong board of trustees that is composed of passionate community volunteers from different walks of life who come together to support the Conservancy's mission. This volunteer body has guided the organization, taken risks, and set high standards of professionalism. As a result, in 2008, the Monadnock Conservancy was the first land trust in New Hampshire to be accredited by the nascent Land Trust Accreditation Commission. The strength and stability of their organization has built trust in the community and made way for the force of conservation they have become. As the Monadnock Conservancy looks to the future, they are prioritizing community conservation, which is an approach that puts human needs and people into the center of their conservation work. One prime example of this work is their partnership with the Winchester Learning Center, where they are creating a 3.5-acre park that will be a gateway for increasing youth access to the outdoors and connecting kids with nature, a foundation of healthy early childhood development. This emerging focus is based on a new awareness that they can use their strengths and resources as an organization to move forward important community projects that contribute to the health and wellness of more community members. The Conservancy attributes their success to a philosophy of responsiveness and focus on local priorities, alongside strong partnerships with the community. These partnerships are with the families and individuals who have made the decision to conserve their beloved properties and the organizations and municipalities that support their mission. The CCCD is proud to be one of those partners and looks forward to seeing the positive impact of the Monadnock Conservancy continuing to grow and flourish in the county. Please join us in congratulating the Monadnock Conservancy for their impressive contributions to natural resources stewardship in the region as our 75th anniversary Conservation Legacy Award recipient.
Brookdale Fruit Farm is a family-owned and operated farm in Hollis, New Hampshire. In 1847, the farm began as a general farm producing dairy. In 1911, the family converted from dairy to orchard and vegetable production. Harold Hardy served on the first Hillsborough County Conservation District's Board of Supervisors in 1946. Chip Hardy began his tenure on the board in 1985 and still plays an active role today. Today, they are a diversified fruit and vegetable operation, owning more than 350 acres and renting an additional 200 acres. They also manage a 75-acre certified tree farm. Their crops are sold through a retail farm stand and pick-your-own veggie operation. They are in 35 grocery stores, 20 other farms, and through wholesale. Over the years, Brookdale Fruit Farm has been an active participant in Hillsborough County Conservation District's programming. Brookdale has been one of the top contributors to the gleaning program, Hillsborough County Gleaners, since it began in 2013. In 2015, Brookdale participated in a pollinator habitat creation site planning demonstration through a statewide effort by the New Hampshire Conservation Districts, ending with a pollinator summit. Brookdale continues to work closely with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service on pollinator habitat plannings around the farm. In 2007, Brookdale Fruit Farm was given the Hillsborough County Conservation District's Cooperator of the Year Award for the excellent work they had implemented on their farm during the year. Brookdale has always been a great host to welcome other farmers and the public to their farm for hands-on learning opportunities. In 2008, the Hillsborough County Conservation District hosted a pond workshop to county landowners at one of the ponds located on Brookdale's property. In 2019, Brookdale trialed some innovative no-till equipment that the Hillsborough County Conservation District later purchased to add to their equipment rental inventory. Brookdale has been an ongoing active participant with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service programs that assist them in continuous improvements to their operation, keeping conservation at the forefront. They have been leaders in cover crop plantings and have been able to extend their growing season by installing seasonal high tunnels on their farm. Today, Brookdale Fruit Farm is considered on the leading edge of the fruit and vegetable industry in New Hampshire and throughout New England. Their contributions are shown through their financial support to agricultural organizations, leadership with various agricultural organizations and community government, and actively supporting and conducting research and demonstration projects with the UNH Cooperative Extension. The home farm consists of 162 acres, has been secured and preserved through a permanent conservation easement. Located in the town center, this will maintain the open farm feeling for the future, where this is a constant development pressure. Starting in the 1970s, Brookdale was one of the first orchards in New Hampshire to adopt pest management practices to reduce the number of pesticides used. Brookdale is a leader in adapting to zone tillage, currently 15 acres of their property, and no-till practices in vegetable production, currently 70 acres. This has enabled them to reduce soil compaction and maintain optimal soil health. Brookdale is also a certified tree farm and owns approximately 75 acres of forest land on their property. In the 1990s, they took on a more active role in managing their forest land by working with a forester, their late friend Dan Sear, whom they created a recreational trail open to the public called the Dan Sear Memorial Trail. Their goals continue to be focused on improved forest quality and health, protection of water resources including riparian buffers, improved and enhanced wildlife habitat, and increased recreational opportunities. Congratulations to Brookdale Fruit Farm!
The Rockingham County Conservation District is proud to present their Conservation Legacy Award to the Rye Conservation Commission, who have been consistently committed to protecting and restoring Rye's natural resources for over 40 years. Under the chairmanship of James Raines for over 25 years, the commission was a conservation force in town, and that continues to this day with Suzanne McFarland and Sally King at the helm. Residents and visitors alike have benefited from the steady hand and commitment this group has shown to conservation and restoration of our natural resources. From the beginning, the Commission would not let developers get away with inappropriate project designs, and always had thoughtful responses to design flaws. From the early 1990s, Rye's wetland regulations were by all standards rather strict. The Commission advocated leaving wetland buffers intact and minimized negative impacts. The Commission worked tirelessly with applicants, came up with compromises, and kept the conservation of natural resources at heart. The Commission also acted swiftly to protect many of their open lands and natural resources forever. The Rye Conservation Commission members began communicating with landowners on how to protect land in town as early as the late 1970s, and those protection efforts took many forms over the years, from conservation easements to the establishment and management of the Rye Town Forest. The Commission often purchased conservation properties adjacent to existing wells and significant waterways, which benefited the Rye Water District. They've also worked tirelessly to conserve Rye's salt marshes by partnering with the Natural Resources Conservation Service to replace several inappropriately sized culverts and other salt marsh restoration projects in the 1990s through early 2000s. In 2003, the town's first open space bond in the amount of $5 million was overwhelmingly passed in the March 2003 town meeting. The Open Space Committee, formed as a subcommittee of the Commission, met regularly and reviewed the Rye build-out plan completed by the Rockingham Planning Commission and came up with prioritized areas of importance to create greenways and natural wildlife corridors throughout town. The Open Space Committee paid particular attention to farms and open spaces that are integral to Rye's semi-rural seacoast character. With these open space bond funds available, grants began to flow in and several significant properties were protected, and the acreage of conserved spaces in Rye was essentially doubled over a decade. Over the years, the Commission has partnered with the Natural Resources Conservation Service to implement conservation practices in other salt marshes and at the town forest that include, but aren't limited to, invasive plant control, salt marsh elevation work, and native salt marsh plantings, all practices that are critical for salt marsh health. The town forest now also has a completed forest management plan to assist with natural resource and forestry recommendations, and volunteer days yield great success in hands-on invasive control work on glossy buckthorn, education, and native plantings. Thanks to all this hard work, the landowners adjacent to the town forest and other areas adjacent to Wallace Salt Marsh have since approached the Commission with requests to protect their land, and over 80 acres of open space was added to the town forest in 2003. Land protection continued in earnest well into the mid-2000s, with the Commission spending bond funds and getting matching grants and using protected property values as leverage along the way. Indeed, the original open space bond doubled in value using values of donated lands and grants and significant acreage that was permanently protected. The Goss Farm, acquired with assistance from the Natural Resources Conservation Service, was a prize acquisition containing over 9 acres of former salt marsh farm that was originally slated for more McMansions. Goss Farm was permanently protected for agricultural use in 2010. Land protection with the original open space bond continued into 2012 with the purchase of a scenic 50-plus acre farm along Washington Road and additional acres adjacent to the town forest. The commission knew it had to keep that momentum going, so in 2014, the commission was pleased to see another $3 million open space bond pass, portions of which are still available to this day. These funds enabled the commission to purchase and permanently protect over 70 acres from a former forested lumber company, protecting the Barry Brooks watershed, and another 80 acres of wetlands protecting the Bailey Brook watershed. The commission actively manages its conservation properties, either by installing access control gates or posts, conducting rail maintenance, or completing invasive species control work. In 2016, the commission rehired the forester for the town forest to complete an updated forest management plan that offers new recommendations, including relocating inappropriate trail systems. The commission began hosting trailgate parties at some of the town's conservation lands, inviting residents and visitors to explore RISE conservation properties. As the commission continues its priority protection projects, it has engaged with UNH Cooperative Extension to assist with mapping to promote natural resources and land conservation with an emphasis on climate adaptation. This effort has involved well-attended workshops with municipal land use boards and interested residents. The Commission's hard work and dedication to its mission of conserving the natural resources of the community is one for other commissions to strive for. Their successes over the last 40 years stem far past projects presented here today and are likely to continue to grow in future years to come. It is with great pleasure that we thank the RISE Commission with this award. Congratulations and thank you for all that you do.
Our opening act is the Sullivan County Spotlight. We try and start every one of these meetings featuring a county. So we're looking forward to hearing from Sullivan County.
Spotlight, and I am really excited about getting everybody outdoors and connected to the natural world. I think it's one way that we get connected to one another too, because we share those things with each other. And it's way more fun when we're out there together as well. And now in COVID times, it's actually a safer place and being touted as that, and a great place for education as schools starting up. So it's a really awesome thing to be able to get kids outside and utilize this time and the places that we have. So before I start, because we are going to focus on conservation education and how we do that in Sullivan County, because it's fairly unique because of the area that we're in the Upper Valley and their focus on place-based education and the funding that comes from that, which funds a lot of my position.
Okay. So by way of a quick overview, I'm just going to begin to, very briefly just talk about sort of some of the key challenges that we're focused on as an organization, including here in the Granite State. I'll give a little bit of a kind of, sort of the look and feel of the Nature Conservancy. We're the largest conservation non-governmental organization in the world, I believe still at this point, but I'll be focusing, on our work here in New Hampshire. And then I wanted to really just kind of illustrate some of the kinds of actions we're taking right now. And so, I'll try and cover a fair bit of ground and then leave some time at the end for you to let me know if there's anything you want to learn a little bit more about in the remaining time. So, So to begin with, I'm sorry to start on, given that we've had an interesting few days with a little bit of a doom and gloom start, but I do think, it's important to recognize that one of the reasons for organizations like TNC, the Nature Conservancy, is that we're facing some pretty significant challenges. Yeah, so there's a lot of different facts that you can share around sort of the biodiversity crisis, but I think we're seeing declines, at rates that are unprecedented in human history as a result of our actions. Around 1 million plant and animal species worldwide are now threatened with extinction. Species like the one in the background here, the golden toad, have already left the planet. We have to act now, and we have to act urgently in order to not see these trends continue. And at the same time, we're doing so in a context, of a rapidly changing climate. There's an overwhelming weight of evidence that through greenhouse gas emissions from our actions, we're fundamentally changing our climate. The figure playing out on the left here is just one way of visualizing the data. Yeah? So this is looking at the average global temperatures through the 12 months of the year compared to a baseline between 1850 to 1900. So, again, well-described, story of a rapidly warming world.